How many times should I stumble over the title before I say it the right way? The Snow of Wolf Hollow.
I keep wanting to call it The Wolf in White Van, which is a book written by the lead singer of the Mountain Goats. All right, 50 seconds or 10 seconds.
The Call of the Wild by Jack London.
Oh, there's no place like home for the holidays, and no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays you can.
Welcome back to Horror for the Holidays, a Christmas horror movie podcast. I'm Jay Logsden.
And I'm a werewolf.
That's Jeff over there. And honestly, I don't know. Should we just get into the movie? We don't have anything to talk about, really.
Nope, nothing happened in my life.
All right. Well, as Jeff mentioned, he's a werewolf. The movie we did this week is The Wolf of Snow's Hollow, released in October of 2020.
Recent movie.
So let's get into it. Let's set the stage. Let's deck the halls. As I mentioned, this movie came out in October of 2020. It had a $2 million budget.
Crazy.
It was written, directed, and starred Jim Cummings. For a guy who kind of did all three, he did a really good job in this movie.
Yes.
World's
worst cop.
Bad cop, great, or solid writer-director star. I don't want to say great. I don't know another person who's done all three in one movie.
Yeah, true.
So I can't judge him against anything, but I thought he did a really good job.
It was fun to watch.
And then we had Robert Forster. This was his last film, or one of his last films.
Yeah, it's dedicated to him.
He died of brain cancer shortly before the release.
Rough way to go.
Yeah. I don't know if they're hiding, or if they're taking his real life struggles and putting it into the movie, but they did a good job. If that is the case, they did a good job of mixing that into the film.
Yeah.
The other person I had, Ricky Lindholm. She's one half of Garfunkel and Oates, which is a comedic music group, and then also appeared randomly in Buffy, Gilmore Girls, has done voice work on the Lego Batman movie, and also currently stars in the show Duncanville on Fox. She's, I think, Kimberly, the younger sister.
Interesting.
Yeah, other than that, do you have anything else, Jeff?
It was filmed in Utah in some beautiful locations.
I love the locations. They did a great job, just like with Barricade. Like, they did a really good job using their location, using the snow on set.
Yeah, no, they definitely made the most of it. Other than that, the only thing I thought was kind of funny was Jim Cummings thought there was no way Robert Forster would ever say yes to the script. And so when he actually got the yes back, he was really excited.
Those are some of my favorite stories. Random aside, is it Kevin Kline is Mr. Fischoeder on Bob's Burgers? They never thought they would get him, and he agreed to be on the show. And so they try to put Mr. Fischoeder in as many episodes as possible to make him keep coming back.
That's great.
But yeah, let's get into it. There's some stuff to discuss. It's a fun movie. So we start off. There's a bunch of beautiful, picturesque scenes of this snowy mountain vacation, snowy mountain vacation town, ski town.
Yep.
We get some pictures of people like skiing, snowboarding, pictures of mountains, kind of some weird reverse, like upside down pictures.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
I guess it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of what the movie's about.
Yeah, in context of the movie, it makes sense later on. But I mean, I was happy that it proved you don't have to go to Canada to see nice scenery.
Yeah, I honestly, I'd be willing to go to wherever they filmed this in Utah and hang out one winter. We start off. We get PJ and Brienne. They're showing up at a vacation home in like a lodge. They then go. It then cuts to them like it's nighttime. They go out to eat. They're at like a diner.
A couple of good old boys is walking out.
Yeah, there's these couple of guys like are walking out there. They say something offensive. PJ confronts them.
And his girlfriend's like, "No, you're gonna get your ass beat."
Yeah, but he kind of confronts them. Has a great line. You have internet in this town. You should try it out. It's fantastic. It will teach your moms how to read.
Yeah, I like that joke.
But that one of them's like, "What'd you say?" And he's like, Oh, forget it, man. And they just
Yeah.
like basically, there's a really short guy. I want to say he was like, I mean, he might be shorter than me.
I mean, if you're talking about redneck number one, yeah, he's like 5'4".
and he's like, hold me back,
Hold,
hold me back.
hold me back, bro.
We then get back to PJ and Brienne back at the cabin. He's getting some wine ready. She's, I think, trying to get the heat sorted on the hot tub. We then kind of cut to them hanging out in the hot tub.
Just hanging out, by the way. Don't worry, nothing happens.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anything happens. PJ then goes in and like takes a shower. We get to like Brienne's like looking out, and she hears like some noise. I don't know if you can hear a wolf howl.
You hear like a little bit of growling, basically.
Yeah, and we then get to like PJ kind of like, Brienne. It might be implied a little bit later that maybe someone cut the heat to the shower. I think there's like a throwaway line, so that's why he kind of got out to see what was going on, and that's when he finds like the bloodied, mangled.
Yeah, her horribly mangled body in the snow, and then like a bloody paw print.
Yeah, and then we get.
For a second, we need to address, where is PJ from? Where is that accent from?
You and I were talking, and he's got a speech impediment, but it's that mixed with like, I don't know, a Boston accent.
I was gonna say, yeah, he was giving me like heavy Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg vibes, but yeah, it's maybe that mixed with a little bit of New Jersey.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He did a good job, but yeah, the first time we're kind of sitting there, we're like, what is it? Where's this guy from?
Boston.
But he did a good job.
Yeah.
Like, nothing against him, and certainly nothing against, if he does have a speach impediment.
Yeah, but no, he did a fine job. It's just I was trying to place that accent.
Yeah, we were sitting there for a good couple minutes, like where's that? I think we both kind of agreed.
Yeah, somewhere from the
kind
blighted
of Boston.
Yeah, somewhere from the blighted Northeast.
We then get to Sheriff Deputy John Marshall, played by Jim Cummings.
The fact that this man is a sheriff's deputy should frighten the entire town.
And he's in AA. He's kind of talking through like the 12 steps or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then gets distracted by something, but there's this great moment where he's like, yeah, sometimes I have anger issues. He's like, my ex-wife wouldn't say a crossword against her, but man, she's a fucking piece of work or something like that.
It's pretty great.
And then he's like, and some days I just want to rent a backhoe, put it in drive, and just send it destroying her house.
Yeah. It's the kind of, when he says stuff like that, you're like, maybe he should just drink.
Well, we'll get to that. He will start drinking here very shortly. But he gets distracted by something upstairs. It's a little unclear what's going on.
I mean, it sounds like there's something walking on the roof, which I thought maybe was supposed to be like a Christmas reference to like, the hooves on the rooftop thing. But yeah, based on what we know now, I'm wondering if maybe it was just in his own head.
Or the other thing I thought was maybe are the AA meetings in the basement of the police station? And so maybe he heard like people them heading out to investigate.
It could be that, just a bunch of people running outside.
And so he's like, oh, I need to, basically like I need to go follow up on this. So he gets out there. We also get the sheriff, played by Robert Forster. Sheriff Hadley, he's John's dad, and he's having, almost instantly you can tell he's having some trouble. He's having some trouble walking.
He doesn't seem, he's not all there. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, and Julia, who is Ricky Lindholm, she kind of helps him walk, and they're discussing, what the crime scene, what's going on. And at one point, I think they're like, where's any signs of sexual assault? And it's like, it's unclear.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's unclear? It's like that part's missing.
Yeah, we haven't been able to find that part yet. Yeah, because the sheriff's like, oh, I can take it. I've been doing this for years. And he's like, no, we can't answer you because we don't have it.
And we get a weird moment where the guy who owned the cabin, the landlord, because clearly he rents it out, he's kind of yelling at the cops. We see this guy a couple times, but he never comes back to do anything. There's a bunch of red herrings set up in this movie.
Oh yeah.
But being red herrings, like, they don't pay off. The one thing that kind of they don't actually set up who the villain is. Strangely,
Yeah.
I think that's the one weird issue I have with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the villain is basically the sheriff's own, well, deputy, and then eventually sheriff, like his own demons.
Right.
The main villain of the movie.
No, someone said when we were watching the extras, someone mentioned it's the cross between, it's pairing the idea of a werewolf against the idea of an alcoholic. Like you wake up unsure of what you've done the night before, you feel
Always,
terrible, stuff like
full
that.
of regret.
But yeah, so there's that really weird, like really cool dichotomy between the two.
Which it makes more sense why they cut constantly back and forth between the werewolf and him.
Julia confronts the two good old boys from the night before.
We didn't have nothing to do with it.
Once again, like, another red herring.
I was kind of disappointed they never got murdered.
Yeah, it would have been very small body count, relatively speaking, in this movie.
But we find out eventually that the werewolf has a type, so they
Yeah.
weren't really on the hit list.
It then kind of cuts to, we get this weird scene where, like, there's a ski instructor, and she's, like, kind of teaching some kids how to ski. We thought, oh, maybe this is his ex-wife. It's not. It's just it's another random woman.
And then it immediately cuts to his ex-wife at
Yeah,
the restaurant.
but yeah, kind of the next scene. But yeah, the ski instructor is going home for the night. We actually see the werewolf for the first time.
Oh, well, let's not forget to note that she's totally instructing a bunch of kids on the mountain and not just a bunch of adults on the knees.
The entire scene is shot from behind the kids' heads, and we're pretty sure it's not actual kid actors. It's just adults on their knees with their heads up.
You know how kids usually sound, where she's like, I was almost as bad as you, and they're like, oh, snap.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, I almost sucked as bad as you do, or something like that. She gets attacked by the werewolf. We see the werewolf for the first time. It's a really cool scene.
Looks really cool, yeah.
A little bit earlier, maybe I think the cops are discussing the first murder.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of get talk about the werewolf for the first time, where they're like, well, it was a full moon last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there was that wolf's paw print found in the ground.
Guy casually mentions the full moon and the paw print, and they're like, yeah, she was totally mangled. I think they say maybe a pack of wolves.
Yeah. But there's also the great moment where the guy's like, I don't know, there was a full moon. I do watch lots of History Channel, and I was just like, oh man, don't let Chuck Grassley see this movie. He has that running feud with History Channel.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's so depressing. Random aside, it's so depressing that our state senator is most known for yelling at the History Channel on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. So then we get into it with his wife, right?
Yeah, his wife's like, his daughter's going to school, getting ready to go to college.
Got a gymnastics scholarship.
Yeah, and I guess she graduated from high school early because she's going into college
At 17.
Yeah, at 17 in the middle of the semester.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically it's the standard divorced couple thing of like, why are you never here to support your child? You're obsessed with work, blah 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 blah.
Yep, you're gonna take care of her. You're gonna, and John's kind of telling his daughter like, I've got to solve this murder.
Yeah.
That's when when a police officer then walks in and is, John, I've been trying to get a hold of you, and he's like, what? And the look on like the other police officer's face, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And so then we go back to the ski launch.
And we're back on the crime scene again.
And they're kind of discussing where, what it is, and John's got a lot going on. His wife tries calling him.
Don't fucking call me while I'm working.
Yeah, he's yelling at her. He's trying to get the news van to back up and leave him alone, or they've got to give 500 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then while he's distracted, while he's yelling at all these people, he's like, I can't hear you. And then the police officer's like, they say it's a wolf bite. And then
he's like, yeah, they confirmed it was a wolf that chewed the arm off, and then the news van just slowly rolls the window back up and backs out. And he's like, that's it. Come talk to me. Yeah, come talk to me over here.
He drags that police officer over and then beats the shit out of him.
Like a good, calm enforcer of the law.
And so, like, under this stress, under, all everything going on. Also, once again, we kind of mentioned his dad's sick. The sheriff of the department is sick. Mm-hmm. On top of all of this, he starts drinking again.
Yeah. And then, does he start drinking again before the meeting or after? Because they have another meeting real quick.
I think he starts drinking before, because then the next morning he shows up the police officer he beat the shit out of, like, gives him tries to give him a gift basket, and he fires him on the spot.
You're fucking fired. You don't work here anymore.
And then what he's like, sorry, I'm late. And one of the police officers to the other, he's like, oh, he was hungover.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to think it's a werewolf. The entire police department seems to think it's a werewolf.
I mean, textbook werewolf, people.
Yeah. Except for John, who's like, it can't be a werewolf. Werewolves aren't real.
Not a werewolf.
Just let me have this one. I'm telling you, it's not a fucking werewolf.
To top everything off, I think it's his dad, who, is the sheriff. He's like, well, I guess we'll find out. Another full moon tonight.
and he's like, let's get an exotic animal expert on this scene.
Yeah, guy who specializes in werewolfology.
And all kind of throughout these, every once in a while we'll get these weird scenes, these weird cut to scenes of like, because everyone's kind of talking, are you going to catch this guy? Are you going to catch this guy? And we'll occasionally, I could catch this guy.
Yeah.
I think even at one, like, multiple people say like, I could solve this. I could solve this.
I could have solved this days ago.
And there's like we get these weird scenes, once again, like a red herring. We get this guy sitting in like a trailer with like a wolf tattoo, and he looks kind of like a grizzled loner. The first time I saw him, I thought it was the PJ guy.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just, we don't see this guy.
His name is Red Herring.
Just like it's a pup named Scooby-Doo.
My favorite show of all time.
Also, we missed the part when John and Julia are, I think they're driving to drop some stuff off with PJ and maybe ask him a couple more questions. Somebody just throws a beer bottle at the cop car.
Yeah.
And like John gets out and he's like, who the fuck throws a beer bottle at a cop
He's
car?
like, what was it? And she's like, beer bottle. And he's like, beer bottle. And she's like, yeah, beer bottle.
And so they go to PJ's house, and he's like, I'm skipping town. Or not skipping town. He's not guilty. But he's like, I got to get out of here. I can't be here.
I'm not guilty. I made that very clear to the state police.
Yeah. So like they give him like a bag of evidence that they took. Yeah. This is very important later on.
Yeah, I don't want that shit. I don't want it. And then he does the typical Boston thing where he's like, Ma, what am I gonna do, Ma?
Oh, Ma, they're making fun of your boy, Ma. PJ kind of turns as they're leaving. He turns. He says to John, he's like, you gotta catch that. You got it when you catch this guy. Blow so many holes in his head that you can see the ground.
Which is an interesting callback to that meeting where he comes in hungover, because he's like, I will find this guy. I will bring him to justice.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole community starts like kind of talking about the Wolfman. I think even like the local news affiliate starts reporting on it.
I think that's the point where the guy at the store is trying to put up the Wolfman of Snow Hollow sign, and she's like, well, you could put it, you don't need to put that up. He's like, I don't choose what gets put up. She's like, nice car. Shame it's got expired plates though. He's like, oh, I guess it'd be okay.
Yeah, I guess it'd be okay if I take it down.
Which, she is like the only good cop in this entire thing, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, Julia's fantastic. We get this scene with this character Liz and her daughter in a diner, and who we're assuming is the werewolf, and we know is the werewolf, kind of comes up and talks to her. We never see the guy's face, but he keeps like asking her more and more personal questions. And then we get to her being like interviewed by the cops, and they've intercut this with like a bunch of other interviews.
Yeah, basically everybody in town's coming in being like, I know who the Wolfman is.
Yeah, we get it's a classic kind of like different people being like, oh, I saw him. It was this guy, and like they're all being just crazy. I think there's even a scene when Liz leaves, and this Karen essentially just barges in the front door, and she's like, I know who the Wolfman is.
The Wolfman is my asshole neighbor.
Yeah. But then John goes and sees his dad. His dad's being checked out by a doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, your dad's got a heart murmur.
No, first his dad's like, oh, he said I'm fine. Clean bill of health. And the doctor's like, he's got a heart murmur.
Right.
He's like, that's bullshit, artist. He's not even a real doctor.
Yeah, Sheriff Hadley refuses to go see the doctor, and then we get Liz driving home with her daughter in the car, and it's snowing out, and she sees a deer in the middle of the road.
Yep.
As she gets closer, you kind of see that like the deer is clearly a decoy because like its neck is all stitched back together and there's like a handprint, like
Bloody handprint,
bloody
like on
handprint
the
into the
back
side.
quarter of it, yeah.
And she turns around when she realizes that like it's probably a decoy and sees the wolf standing right next to her car. She then gets attacked by the wolf
Brutally, and then also her daughter.
They intercut like a bunch of scenes of like John at funerals. Like I think there's 3 different funerals, and like John attends all of them, but he's getting, he's drinking more and more and more.
He's getting progressively chewed out by the people in the town.
Yeah.
They're like, why the fuck aren't you catching this guy?
Yeah, catch him. You need to catch this guy. We get another scene with the suspicious man in the trailer. He's burning a corpse. He has a wolf tattoo.
I think he has a pet wolf too.
Yeah, he has
a dog that looks a lot like a wolf.
Right. John goes to the library in a fantastic, where he's like, basically we learn later he told the librarian to give him all the spooky books in town.
Give me all the spooky books. It's a real supernatural move.
And so he's reading all this stuff about werewolves. He's reading
like,
stuff about
like the Germanic legends, all different kinds of shape changers, it looks like.
but he also gets a book about taxidermy because he's still not convinced.
Yeah, no, he still thinks it's a man.
Yeah.
But he thinks it may be connected to like werewolf mythology, maybe.
He's even more interested in it being a man, like, because they find the deer, they find that deer still in the street, or like, in front of Liz's car, and the bloody handprint has been cut out of the side of the deer, and and John's like, who would do this?
Yeah, it's like clearly this was somebody trying to hide something.
Yeah, so, and it's someone who knows how to do this kind of thing.
Not the thing you would really expect from a werewolf.
And so remember that like John's looking at this taxidermy book. I think he even takes a photocopy of it, of one of the pages, and that will come back later.
And that's when the librarian walks up to him after he's fallen asleep and says, and first he wakes him up and he's like, oh, fuck. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Someone's been trying to call you on your radio.
Yeah. John says to the librarian, he's like, I need to tell you, if this would have been someone else on the police department, would have shot you.
This would have been a shooting.
We're like, Jesus Christ, they're just flat out telling you that the cops in this town suck.
Yeah.
They go to Liz's place of work, and there's like a creepy voicemail from the killer, or who we assume is the killer. Like, he left a bunch of voicemails, and it turns out it was a payphone along the highway.
Yeah, and you know what the best part of that is? He takes the phone.
Yeah, he's like, we need this for evidence, and he just takes the whole phone out of the wall and just wraps it up and leaves.
I'm taking this.
They impose a curfew on the town. They're gonna try and catch this werewolf. The sheriff is still kind of Sheriff Hadley's still having a hard time.
Yeah,
and John basically tells the I don't know, like the secretary, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, you need to take care of my dad. Watch him because he's sick. He's got a heart murmur.
Yeah, and while this is going on, John's daughter has snuck out to meet her boyfriend Brock.
Wow.
And so there's this curfew going on, and they're making out in the car, and then Brock's paranoid. I'm sure for one he's paranoid because the sheriff's granddaughter, the sheriff's deputy's daughter is in the car with him. There's a curfew going on. I'm sure he's paranoid.
Well, not to mention her dad is a known psycho, violent drunk.
Right. And he sees like this movement out of the corner of his eye, so he kind of wipes away like the foggy interior of the window, and there's like a lady like waving at him, and they're like, what's going on? And the wolf crashes into the side of the car.
She's trying to motion like behind you.
And so they try to like get away. The car won't start. The wolf then comes around to the other side, breaks through the door.
Yeah, it just tries to basically rip them both out of the car.
But also we saw the lady was holding a phone, so she was on the call to 911. John gets there, fires a couple shots at the wolf. The wolf takes off.
Yeah.
While that's going on, John confronts his daughter. The boyfriend just got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, the daughter's just there. It's like, no, she's like, oh my God. And he's like, what are you doing here? Like, and then she's like, really? You don't even ask me if I'm okay?
Yeah. I'm bleeding from the skull, and you don't, and you're asking me why I'm out here.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in retrospect is kind of weird. But yeah, basically she just tells him off about what a terrible father he is and how he's like she doesn't even want him in her life. And then she goes and gets in the car and she's like, I am bleeding from the fucking skull. Take me to the hospital.
Right. And in the background we hear the wolf howl and we hear a couple more gunshots. We will then find, I think, Officer Chavez dead and stuffed in a trash can.
Yeah. Looks like watching the History Channel didn't pay off.
Yeah, and so we see John, his daughter's laying in one bed asleep. His dad's in the hospital bed right next to her asleep. He sneaks into her phone, finds Brock's information, and then goes and beats him up and has like a napkin wrapped around his face.
Has, for someone trained in law enforcement, the worst possible disguise. But yeah, basically, he doesn't even really get a chance to beat him up all that much because he botches it so bad that Brock's mom catches him as soon as he comes in the house. Pepper sprays them both, by the way, which I thought was nice and realistic.
Also, doesn't realize that it's John until he takes the napkin off of his face, and then she's like, "What the fuck are you doing? What were you doing with that girl?" Smacking Brock upside the head.
And so he runs to the kitchen and pours milk on his face to deaden the pepper spray.
Yeah. And so John gets back to the hospital. He's talking to his daughter's like, "Dad, where were you?" And he's like, "Taking care of family business." "No, where were you?" And it does like a rack focus, and it pans past him to the empty hospital bed. His dad died.
Mm-hmm. Died while he was out doing something stupid.
Yeah. John gets more. He just falls deeper into depression. He gets super drunk.
I mean, yeah, he's basically spiraled down so far that the helpful lady from the sheriff's office comes in to find him like drunk on the floor,
crying about his dad.
And she's like, "You're parked in the middle of the street, right?"
He gets kicked out of the AA meeting for showing up drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's completely spiraled out of control. I think he goes home and like his daughter has to like pull him upstairs.
Yeah, pretty much.
And they have kind of a big fight, a big blow up about the whole situation.
He's so drunk when she comes home that I think initially she thinks he might have been dead.
Right. And while that's going on, the suspicious man in the trailer, we see him like overdosing on heroin and he dies.
Which, apparently that the entire town just assumes, oh, guy with a wolf tattoo. It must have been him.
No, yeah. So the next morning, he's back at the police station. Julia comes in and they're like, "John, we caught the guy." Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks it's this guy. Everyone's kind of telling John like, "You fucking idiot,
you moron.
We could have caught this guy. He lived less than 10 miles from where the first murder happened. He has a wolf tattoo.
Yeah,
he had a knife collection."
And so there was a missing lady buried in his backyard, which it never really says if that was part of these killings or if that was just another missing lady.
I think it was just a different missing lady.
Yeah, so he may have been a murderer, but not the murderer. But interesting note though, one of the guys who says, I could have solved this in like 5 minutes was the medical inspector that earlier in the movie John gets into a fist fight with.
And then John is fighting with the guy. He's like, my 6-year-old daughter could have solved this. And he's like, "Well, you know what? Your 6-year-old daughter is going to need to find a whole bunch of new friends because you threw the beer bottle at our car. You're fired."
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So John is kind of, he's completely broken down. He's a total mess, and he's going from basically house to house to house, dropping off the evidence. Everyone's kind of yelling at him, "I could have solved this murder. I could have figured this out. You're stupid.
You're pathetic."
Yeah. How did it? Yeah. One of the people literally spits in his face. Mm-hmm. And while that's going on, Julia gets a phone call from PJ, and he's like, "Hey, he's moved away."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I found this weird like seam ripper in the evidence bag you left for me." He's like, "Can I send it to you or whatever?" And he describes like the item, and Julia had been looking through the evidence like when they were putting the evidence away because like they solved the case. Yeah. When she was like putting it away, she saw the photocopy of the taxidermy information.
Yeah. And she has that moment of realization where she's like, "Oh." But she can't contact John because he's already there returning it to the guy.
Yep, and John is at while that's going on, John is literally standing outside of the taxidermist's house. Yeah. And so the taxidermist like answers the door, and "Oh, John, I'm making some coffee. Come on in." And they kind of get to talking, and John asks him like, "Oh, how's your wife?" And the guy says, "I don't have a wife."
Yeah.
And just kind of a weird random aside. And then I think at one point he mentions like, "Oh, how's your daughter doing?" Mm-hmm. And I guess they kept it out of the news that his daughter was attacked by the wolf. And so how would the taxidermy guy know that?
Right. Yeah.
That the wolf had attacked his daughter.
Well, yeah, because the wolf didn't kill his daughter that night. He killed the deputy. So that was what would have been in the news.
And so John goes to like leave, and then he kind of turns around, knocks on the door. The taxidermist answers the door like, "John, did you forget something?" He's like, It was something you said kind of bothered me. I got a quick request for you. Can you stand at your full height? And he does, and the guy's like well over 6 feet tall.
He's like looks like 7 feet tall, basically.
Right, and
like a suspiciously werewolf-sized man.
right, exactly. And he like slams the door. John tries to get in. He calls for backup. Can't get through to anybody. Busts through the window when he
in a hilarious garbage can maneuver.
Yeah, he like throws the garbage can, and I assume he just used the garbage can to like break the glass, and he just went straight through with it.
Yeah.
He finds the missing head of the ski instructor. We forgot to mention that the ski instructor was decapitated. In the taxidermy guy's house, he kind of turns around, and the taxidermist like stabs him through the stomach.
Brutal stabbing.
And John's like coughing up blood. Julia arrives in her police car, and he takes off. John kind of gets up, takes off after him. Yeah. We see the guy kind of wearing like the wolf, like the bodysuit, but not the head.
Yeah, he didn't have time to put the helmet on, but he kind of stops and does like an animalistic kind of growl.
Yeah, and John takes off after him. Earlier we forgot. I guess it's a little important. And John, it's implied it's getting towards the end of the year because when John says bye to Julia when she drops him off when he's returning the evidence, he's like, "Oh, Happy New Year." Like, I won't see a Happy New Year. And so John takes off after him. Fireworks start going off, and I think it allows John kind of enough illumination and
track him through the woods.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they're following him, and I think Julia shoots the wolf.
Yep.
And then John, doing what PJ asked, like blows a bunch of
shoots him in the head multiple times.
Yeah, enough that you can see the ground where his head used to be.
And at that point, he collapses from like shock and blood loss.
Yep. And I think Julia, there's a line earlier on in the AA meetings where John's talking about like people asking if he's okay, and you need to kind of accept people asking you if you're okay. And Julia's like mouthing like he can't hear her, like he's so cranked full of adrenaline and blood loss he can't hear her, but she's like mouthing, "Are you okay?" And he passes out.
Yeah.
We then get Jenna, John's daughter, going to college. Julia's kind of talking with her. Julia's now the sheriff.
Yep.
John's just kind of there. They leave. They leave Jenna. He kind of gives Jenna the talk about being safe. Earlier in the film, he gave Jenna the talk about being safe and asked if she had the pepper spray bottle.
Yeah, and the gun.
Yeah, and this time he asks Jenna like, "Are you being safe?" And like she and I think we're kind of supposed to believe, it's he wants to make sure she has the pepper spray. She wants to make sure she has the gun. And she goes and checks her top drawer, and there's some condoms in there.
Yeah.
John and Julia are then leaving the dorms, and there's some guys coming in. They're like, "Oh, all the gymnastics girls just moved in on my floor, fresh meat." And John kind of stops. John kind of stops, and he's gonna say something, and instead he just keeps walking.
So he's overcome his crippling anger.
Yeah, but yeah, like that's kind of the movie.
Yeah. Nice little movie.
Yeah, it was a fun movie. I liked it quite a bit. Let's get into our minutia. Christmas carols, favorite quotes, anything that stuck out to you?
Well, there's the one when I think it's during the ski instructor investigation where he's like, "You were just a horrible cop," which is coming from like the worst cop in the entire town. He's yelling at one of the deputies who did bag the evidence, right? "You're a terrible police officer."
His dad, Sheriff Hadley's like, Willie Nelson can still do this. He's like, Willie Nelson's a guitar player. He's not doing, Willie Nelson can still do this at my age. Like, we're not going to let the young guns kick us off. And John's like, Willie Nelson's a guitar player. He's not doing a lot of heavy police work, Dad.
Yeah. I'll say another one of my most memorable things was the dad and the doctor thing. He's like, Doc says I'm fine.
He's got a heart murmur.
And the doctor's like, yeah, he has a heart murmur. And the doctor's like, what? This bullshit artist. He said I was fine before you came in here. He's not even a real doctor.
And John's just like, God damn it, Dad.
I mean, it's just everything with his dad's just pushing him even further over the edge.
The big sign outside the grocery store, I did like it just said, "Stop the Snow Hollow Wolfman. See something, say something."
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Also, there was one other line where like Chavez says like, or where Julia's like, "Chavez seems to think it's a werewolf," and then John's like, "Yeah, well, Chavez thinks Men in Black is a documentary."
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, I also liked the little History Channel thing we talked about earlier.
that was
like,
great.
I saw it on the History Channel.
Anything else?
No, not really. I mean, this one didn't really have a lot of hilarious, memorable quotes like 13 Slays, but I mean, it was still enjoyable.
And that's the thing, is like there were some good lines, but yeah, nothing stuck out.
I mean, yeah, a lot of physical comedy, definitely, especially from the sheriff's deputies.
So yeah, let's move on to Christmas sweaters, any like costuming decisions, effects, anything like that interest you.
I mean, the sheriff's deputies look like sheriff's deputies. I mean, I like they sold the werewolf when he's not in his werewolf suit as a creepy guy in a hoodie, and I thought they did that pretty well. The way they shot him and like the clothes that they picked made him look like a total creep.
No, everyone looked like they lived in a cold weather climate. Everyone was dressed appropriately. You don't always get that in all of these movies.
Well, a little detail I noticed too was these people must really live in an area with snow because of the way they walk on the snow. It's like, because a lot of people walk unnaturally in movies on snow, probably because they're not used to it.
Right. Good effects. I thought
Oh,
like
yeah.
when the ski instructor, she gets her arm bitten off. That looks cool as hell.
Oh yeah, great effects. I mean, the werewolf suit. We got to talk about that.
The werewolf suit looks so fucking cool.
Like fantastic. One of the best werewolf suits I've ever seen.
No, and when you first see it, like it looks like a real werewolf. I think it's a mixture of CGI and practical effects.
But yeah, no, definitely the main thing is like he's a taxidermist, obviously. So it looks like he basically took like a gray wolf and kind of extended the head and neck to make himself like a helmet he can buckle on, and then just a suit of fur, maybe wolf fur, maybe bear fur. It's hard to tell, but no, it just looked fantastic.
Oh, it looks so cool in all the scenes, like especially when we're not sure that it's just a man, and so it is just a werewolf in all these scenes. It looks like a real werewolf.
Oh yeah, especially I mean they even made it look good when he's moving on the ground on all fours.
The one thing, and I think I mentioned it to you earlier, I would have liked maybe one more scene with a little bit more. Is it a werewolf? Is it just a wolf? Is it just a man? I would have liked if they had stretched that out a little bit more.
I mean, honestly, I think we were talking about it before we started recording. This honestly could have done with probably another 10, 15 minutes added onto the runtime.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was going to get into that when we did our rating. Lastly, holiday spirit. How Christmassy is the movie? How Christmassy are the kills?
I mean, the kills, not Christmassy at all. The movie itself, I would say, pretty Christmassy.
I thought very subtly Christmassy. I don't think they ever mentioned that it's Christmas time.
No. Other than the New Year's reference to set like the time frame, no. But no, it's just like the little touches, like the lights and the wreaths and the music playing like on the ladies' headphones in the bar and stuff like that.
No, and as we mentioned before, yeah, all that stuff's the snow on the ground. Snow goes, just like in Barricade. Snow goes a long way to making these movies
Feel like they're in the holiday spirit.
My biggest complaint when we get to it, I think I might have mentioned this already once before in a previous episode. In Silent Night, the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, it supposedly takes place in Wisconsin, but there's no snow on the ground.
Which, if you know anything about Wisconsin, it would be ridiculous.
Right,
Christmas time.
Exactly, and so a little bit of snow goes a long way in these movies.
Yeah, it does help sell it.
But yeah, there's Christmas lights in a handful of scenes. You see Christmas trees in a handful of scenes. They never flat out say it's Christmas. You hear Christmas music. They never flat out say it's Christmas, but
but they really don't need to.
But you can tell it's Christmas. It's got all those crunchy trappings that let you know that it's a Christmas film. But yeah, Kill's not at all Christmassy. It's a werewolf movie.
Yep, it's a werewolf movie and a pretty good werewolf movie at that.
So I guess bringing up the werewolf. Let's add him to the naughty list.
Yes, let's.
Where would you put the Wolf of Snow's Hollow on the naughty list?
I mean, as far as like danger level, I'd say he's probably the deadliest thing on the naughty list so far.
I was torn. I thought like, okay, he killed 4 people, 5 people, I guess.
Well, let's say, and just in brutal ways too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Removed body parts, removed heads, shoved people in trash cans.
I mean, and I think just based on his sheer physical size, definitely stronger than average because he's able to like rock a car up off its wheels, stuff like that.
My one thing is like, killed what I think we have 5 people, as opposed to the bar patrons in 13 Slays who terrorized this town for over a decade.
Let's say they've killed who knows how many.
At least 23, maybe. That number sticks in my head.
But Honestly, I'm just thinking from the perspective of which one of these people would I least like to encounter, and I'm thinking probably this guy.
Yeah, I can see that. I think you're right. I'm okay with moving him to the top, moving the Wolf of Snow
yeah.
Hollow to the top of our list.
I'd say he's top of the naughty list for me. But I mean, followed closely by the killers from 13 Slays.
Yeah, it's tough, but as we go, we'll move people more around.
Well, and it's like he's got that air of like the supernatural about him too, which I think helps. But it's like as a group, I would say the killers from 13 Slays would probably be higher. But I mean, individually, there's no contest.
Right. Well, and they all got taken down by one lady in a bar.
Yeah, true. They did all get massacred by a lady in a bar
and a beer bottle through the dick.
Yeah, beer bottle dick kill. I mean, that kind of removes a little bit of the scariness.
beer bottle foo, as Joe Bob would say. Yeah. So let's get into our rating. We rate these Christmas horror movies on one of three possible ratings. Is it ho 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 hilarious? Is it seasonally scary? Or is it you'll be sorry?
Well, this is where I'm torn because it's like I'm not particularly scared by like murders and gore, but I know there are people who are scared by that. I know there are people who are scared of werewolves in general just because of the animalistic nature of it. So I could see somebody coming at it from that perspective would probably think this is seasonally scary. But I think it's ho ho hilarious.
I agree with you in everything you said. Almost and I'm not scared of this movie, but for me, I put it down as seasonally scary because while it's not scary, I think people could be scared of this movie. It felt very Silence of the Lambs. I mentioned that to you off the air. Especially the scene at the end where John is at the taxidermist's office already. It felt very much like that scene where Jodie Foster is already at Buffalo Bill's house and the FBI is raiding one house. We think, oh, they've caught the guy, and Buffalo Bill answers the door to talk to Clarice. Like, it felt just like that scene.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give it seasonally scary. I agree with you.
A couple things I like we mentioned, I would have liked if the movie was a little longer. I would have liked 20 more minutes. It's only 80 minutes. It's a very fast watch. Yeah. 20 more minutes to maybe flesh out, maybe throw the killer in a couple more scenes.
Yes, getting to know the killer a little bit more would be nice. Getting a little bit more like backstory for Jim, maybe to find out more of like why he's this way, because we get a little casual conversation of like the daughter like psychoanalyzing him a little bit, like, are you doing this because mom left and you're trying to prove that you're not a failure or whatever.
Right. And the one thing is, like, reading between the lines, it is a small town. It's a ski resort. They get really busy around winter time, and then otherwise the rest of the year it's a pretty uneventful. So everyone in town kind of knows everyone's business.
Yeah.
So so that would explain, like, okay, we've not really seen the killer before, but John and Julia know who all these people are.
I mean, if he's a taxidermist in a mountain town, I'm sure everybody knows him.
Well, and even at the beginning of the movie, they walk into the cabin and there's like a taxidermied deer, and there, that was early on.
Gave me a barricade flashback.
Early on, I thought, oh, maybe the killer is the landlord of the cabin, because there was that taxidermied deer in there.
Yeah. Well,
but like you said, it's a small town. I'm sure a lot of people have taxidermied animals.
So that was, I was almost hoping, because I was really hoping, because they telegraphed it, that those rednecks would get killed. And, since they are hunters, obviously, if they had met up with him, like, at the taxidermy shop, I think it could have been cool if they'd, like, stumbled into the back room and, like, saw the ski instructor's head there in a bag or whatever, and then he's got to kill them, even though it's against his type.
I would have also liked, as we learned, he has a type. He goes after the
pretty young women, basically.
And then the one exception, or the two exceptions, being the daughter, the little girl, and also being the police officer. But Chavez, there's nothing he could do. He was confronted by him.
Yeah, so guessing he killed the officer because he was confronted, killed the little girl because she's a witness.
Yep. But the one thing I thought there would have been a cool scene, if it kind of reminiscent of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, where Billy kind of kills the two guys on the sled. I would have liked, I thought that would have been a cool way to take out those hunters, like they're out hunting, drinking, whatever. And hey, did you hear that? And then you see like the wolf run through and like kill one of the guys.
Yeah.
Like I thought that would have been cool.
That would have been cool, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been completely out of type for the movie.
But yeah, basically it just didn't fit the movie and there wasn't any room in the runtime because this movie is like really, it's just boom, 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 plot point to plot point.
Yeah, like just a couple more minutes and I think the movie would be perfect. But it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Everyone did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be even harder now to go back to these other movies now that we've watched 13 Slays in this movie in a row. It's like now we're getting used to movies on this show being good. It's not a good precedent to set.
Yep. Yeah, when our next episode comes out and it's something terrible, bear with us as we sit there and just groan for, our whole 40-minute to, over an hour runtime. Speaking of, coming or, other episodes, as we do on every episode, we like to clean out our email inbox in a little segment we like to call
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
All right, and this email comes to us today from Glenn. Hi, Jay and Jeff. I got a question for you assholes. What made you think it was okay to do an episode on Barricade?
Because we do what we want.
This was the worst trash I've ever had the misfortune of hearing described, and I starred in See No Evil. Weird, Glenn. You better hope I don't find out where you hippies live, or I'll tombstone you through a fucking table. P.S. I'm wearing a suit because it looks professional. Yours truly, Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County, Tennessee. Holy shit.
What? No way.
Can't believe Glenn Jacobs, Kane himself, listens to our podcast.
I mean, normally I'd just tell this guy to fuck off, but I'm a little scared to now.
Well, don't worry. Previously in his life, Glenn Jacobs was Dr. Isaac Yankum, DDS.
Oh, really?
Yep, that was a previous gimmick of his.
Well, as long as he doesn't bring his brother with him, I think we should be okay.
But in all seriousness, Glenn, Barricade sucks. And honestly, we paid you a compliment. We said See No Evil's way better.
Mm-hmm, yeah, exactly. It's like I thought See No Evil was the worst thing that WWE Studios ever made, but I was wrong.
Yeah, so Glenn, how about you go back and, go back to being a shitty mayor in your shitty town, and we'll go back to recording a shitty podcast.
Exactly. Stay in your lane, Glenn.
Yeah, go fuck yourself too.
And also, you're never gonna find us.
Also, there was that hilarious episode. There was that hilarious thing where you tweeted something, and then Hangman Page, the best wrestler on the planet right now, tweeted a video of like Kane taking headshots from chairs over and over and unprotected chair shots. Hangman is a saint. I love that man.
Well, all I can say for sure is that the views of Jay Logston do not reflect my own views. If you come and tombstone us, only tombstone him. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, buddy. So that'll wrap us up for this week. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. If you want to get in touch with us, send us an email. If you'd like to be on our Garbage Day segment, to horrorfortheholidays@gmail.com. If you would like to get in touch with us another way, we are on TikTok and Twitter at horror4holidays.
And as always, if you want an audio backup of these episodes, go to our YouTube channel, Horror for the Holidays. You'll see our logo. Same on every social media platform.
Yeah, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, give us 5 stars, like our videos, however you watch.
Send us angry emails.
Yeah, send us angry emails. Send us mean comments. Send us nice comments.
If you feel like it.
The other day, one of our inspirations for this podcast was the podcast The Flophouse, and I think it was their 15-year anniversary this past weekend, and I tweeted we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. And so they tweeted out, they retweeted us and said something nice about it. So that was
very nice.
Yeah, not about us specifically, just nice about the fact that like, hey, we're inspiring other people to do this. So get in touch with us and hell, listen to the Flophouse. It's a better podcast than ours.
No, only listen to Horror for the Holidays. Give us your souls.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll see you again in 2 weeks where we'll do another movie. Thanks.
I think Glenn Jacobs is a fine mayor. Thank you.
Bye.